are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, February 16th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about a few things, some college football stuff, talk about the new TV deal. The SEC wanted to go to a 9-game schedule. We'll also talk about the court case between the NCAA, Virginia, and Tennessee. And then also with the NFL, the NFL was it seems like they were kind of blindsided by this new sports streaming app that's going to be launched in the fall. So we'll talk about all that in just a second. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Tom Brady saying that even if he was offered a new contract with the Patriots, he was not going to stick around in New England. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about, in the third part of the show, the likelihood that Russell Wilson will be released by the Broncos. I know Sean Payton, he's been talking to the media lately. There hasn't been an official decision yet on, if Russ is going to be cut or released, or if he's going to be traded, or if he's going to stick around. But it seems like the likelihood is he will not be with the Broncos in some capacity next season. So we'll talk about that. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about teams that will rise and fall for 2024 in the NFL. Because there was a couple articles on CBS that had teams that were listed, and I wanted to cover that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is, topics, because there's several here. So first we'll get into the TV stuff with college football. So ESPN and the College Football Playoff, so they were in agreement for a 6-year, $7.8 billion extension to remain the home of the College Football Playoff through the 2031-2032 season. And also in the article that I was looking at, it talks about the conference realignment, about the Pac-12. Basically, now it's the Pac-2 with 2 teams, Washington State and Oregon State. You have UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington are moving to the Big Ten, while Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah are joining the Big 12. Cal and Stanford are heading into the ACC. It also talks about how the ESPN deal will not be ratified until the College Football Playoff commissioners and presidents vote on the structure and financials of the expanded College Football Playoff, with meetings scheduled for the following week. Right now, ESPN currently has 2 deals left on its existing deal with the College Football Playoff, worth of an average of $608 million annually, covering college football semifinals, championship, and other New Year's bowl games. Despite the expansion of the College Football Playoff to 12 teams, ESPN retains the rights to all matchups, including the first round, quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship games. The new agreement will cost ESPN $1.3 billion annually, with the quarterfinal college football matchups to be played at current New Year's Six Bowl locations, with which ESPN already holds the rights to. Also, it says how ESPN's new deal extends its control over Division I college championships with rights to nearly every D1 championships except for the men's basketball tournament, which is held by CBS and TNT. But yeah, so I mean that's where the college football playoff has been held, ESPN, and that's going to continue. And also, what I mentioned is the SEC is considering playing a 9-game schedule. So, yeah, you got major conferences like the Big Ten, Big 12, and Pac-12 have already been playing a 9-game schedule, leading to some criticism by the SEC's 8-game format. And, all right, 1 second. Let's fix the... Oh, man. Okay, camera just decides to act up out of nowhere. Don't know why. I mean, again, this happens at least once or twice, on the show. Actually, but the thing is, it's been good lately. So I don't know why it... I mean, that just came out of nowhere, but it's that's part of the production here with me. All right, so there we go, quick fix. Yeah, that was strange, but it happens. The SEC is looking to play 9 games. Again, talks about teams that are moving around, conference realignment. The SEC is expanding by adding powerhouse programs like Texas and Oklahoma. With more teams in the conference, an expanded schedule can ensure more consistent matchups over multiple seasons. And, of course, it also talks about how the college football playoff is looking to expand to 12 teams. And it talks about, more intriguing SEC conference games could lead to better television contracts. Now, we just talked about how ESPN is extending their contract with the college football playoff. So, I mean, I'm curious to see how the whole 12-team format is going to play out. And with that, and on top of the fact that you're having so many teams shifting around, it's going to be interesting. Again, for me, being kind of an outsider when it comes to college football, I'm intrigued by what is going to happen with all that when we see it, because it's different when you're comparing it to the NFL. Obviously, I mean the NFL, they expanded to obviously the adding the 7th seed. College football, there are very good teams, and then what you don't want is you don't want to have just bad matchups. You want every matchup to be good. And again, I go back to the national championship from a couple years ago, Georgia against TCU, and just how that was just a complete blowout. Like, you just don't want a lot of those games to be like that, especially when you're expanding to 12 teams. But I mean, we'll see. Again, we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what it ends up being. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the stuff with the NCAA and the lawsuit against them from Tennessee and Virginia, because there could be a ruling very soon on that. So a federal judge in Tennessee is considering a preliminary injunction requested by the states of Tennessee and Virginia to stop the NCAA from enforcing its rules regarding name, image, and likeness. So we could be seeing that very soon. So what's talked about here is that now, at first they wanted a temporary restraining order by acknowledging that they are likely to succeed on the merits of their claim under the Sherman's Act. Now, see, the thing with me is, again, I'm an outsider. So it seems like they could be doing away with the NIL rules. Now we'll see. This is what I meant to look at. The NCAA failed to implement detailed NIL regulations in 2021 because that's when this was all put in place. Relying on existing rules against inducements and pay for play, along with state level NIL laws. But yeah, so it's again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because now if they do away with these NIL rules, then there's kind of like there's a lot of things that will be opened up if that ends up happening. Because this was put into place because, again, you want there to be some kind of regulation on what student athletes can do and what they can't do. But, again, if there's no, like, as I was reading, if there's no, like, detailed, laws on what you can and can't do, it's like, it's again, we'll have to see, but something to definitely keep an eye on, because there's a lot of things that can end up happening with that, but again, only time will tell. But again, a ruling is likely, so we'll have to see how that ends up going. But then we turn to the NFL now, and so it seems like they were kind of blindsided by this new sports streaming app, because they're looking for loopholes. So they were reviewing their contracts with ESPN and Fox, because those are two of the big companies that are going to be putting all their content on, the streaming apps. And the review suggested that the NFL may not be able to prevent its games from appearing on the new streaming platform, but the league is still exploring potential loopholes. NFL executives were reportedly unhappy about being kept in the dark regarding the public announcement of the joint streaming venture, especially given their close partnership with ESPN. Jimmy Pitaro, ESPN's chairman, has prioritized repairing the relationship between ESPN and the NFL since taking over in 2018, resulting in better schedule and improved communication with the league. Yeah, because if you look at the Monday night matchups in the past, a lot of matchups, it's Sunday Night Football was is like the standard for the primetime games. Thursday night games and the Monday night games for years have kind of been subpar, and that's especially when you look at what they wanted to do this past season, where they wanted to you could flex out of these games. Like, they moved the Seattle Eagles game to Monday night, which actually turned out to be a good game because it had playoff implications at the time. But yeah, a lot of times the Monday night and Thursday night matchups just weren't good. So that is, I guess that is part of the reason for that. Despite potential concerns, the joint venture makes sense from a viewer perspective as it brings together various sports leagues under one streaming platform. Yeah, absolutely, it does. It's just, but now if you're putting all of that content onto the streaming app, you're kind of taking it away from. Listen, cable TV is going to be gone at some point. So right now, if they're putting everything there, and again, I don't know if it's going to be exclusively unless it's going to be a simulcast. But that's the thing though, is I don't understand why it can't just be a simulcast for everything. But unless somebody else knows the reason why. But yeah, listen, the streaming app I think is good because you're putting everything in one place. But at the same time, it's like you also have to force people to go away from cable and go to this if that's where everything is going to be exclusively. Because if you're not doing a simulcast, then you have to go to this app, and then you have to pay more money to get it. Now, again, myself and many others can do that, but there's some people that they might have a little bit of trouble. So, it's again, it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with that. But I don't know. It seems like the NFL was not happy about it. Just because, like I said, they're looking for a loophole. But yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. A lot of stuff going on. The NIL stuff we'll keep an eye on. See what the ruling ends up being, but they can maybe end up doing away with it because these universities don't see it being right, because there's no clear set of rules. But and then also when I was reading, they tried to they did implement if I can find where I put it, because I have so many notes on my phone here. But they basically tried to add more rules to make it more clearer. But it just you got schools that aren't very happy with what the NCAA is doing. But it's only going to get uglier. So we'll see what happens there. Again, new TV deals, sports streaming apps. It's there's a lot going on the off the field stuff. That's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on everything that was discussed. Again, I apologize. My explanation is not very clear because, again, I'm trying to learn as we move along here. So when we come back from our first break of the show, we're going to talk about Tom Brady's ending in New England, and talk about why, he even if New England offered him a contract, he wasn't going to stay. So that's what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about Tom Brady's ending in New England. So, Brady came out and said that even if the Patriots did offer him a contract, he just wasn't going to come back. This is something that we've all kind of known, that the ending in New England did end, as it says here. It was a sour ending between them. Brady cited issues with Belichick as a significant factor in his decision to leave the Patriots after the 2019 season. Brady expressed dissatisfaction with the way things had gone and stated he wouldn't sign another contract with the Patriots. Instances of discord between Brady and Belichick, including restrictions on Brady's personal trainer, Alex Guerrero. Brady responded when asked if he felt appreciated by Belichick and Patriots owner Robert Kraft. Kraft acknowledged discussions with Brady about Belichick's treatment, noting Brady's sensitivity and desire for approval. Contract negotiations, particularly Brady seeking a new contract extension, were a primary issue between Brady and Patriots management. Listen, it just ended up being a bad ending. It happens. At some point, it was going to end. And, this is something I've talked about a lot, just even like the on-the-field stuff, too, because I know what I was reading is talking about his trainer. But you saw what the Patriots were surrounding Brady with the last couple of years. 2017, they traded for Brandon Cooks, and that was a great trade because Brandon Cooks at the time was one of the better receivers in the league. Was pretty good with the Saints, and the Saints moved off of him. The Patriots trade for him, right? I think that's, yeah. Because I know he obviously he's kind of bounced around since then. But yeah, I mean that was a good trade. And then he was only there for 1 year. They got rid of him. And then in 2018, you have Josh. I forgot Josh Gordon. Who wasn't the same player he once was, but he was in and out of the league. With off the field issues. Gronkowski was breaking down. Edelman especially. I mean, you watch, his interviews. I think it was on because I think Edelman has his own football life on NFL Network, and he just said how the last couple of years were rough. I mean, I know Gronk came back, but Gronk got banged up a lot during his career. It's just they really didn't get Brady a lot of help. Even though they won the Super Bowl in 2018, they were still able to do that. But that's because you also have a good defense behind you. And listen, they got to the playoffs, and like I talked about with the Chiefs, they flipped their switch, the Patriots, and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and they beat the Rams. And yeah, I mean that was the last Super Bowl that Brady and Belichick won together. But then 2019, Gronk leaves, retires, and yeah, I mean, you got Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry, Benjamin Watson, they bring in that tight end. It's just, it really didn't work that last year. And again, they had a good record. It's just, you could tell that it just, it didn't seem like that was going to be the year they were going to win. But he couldn't count them out until they officially got eliminated, and that was against the Titans. And then Brady leaves. And he goes to the Bucs, gets Gronk out of retirement. They sign Leonard Fournette. They sign Antonio Brown to go along with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Good offensive line, good defense, and we know what happened. Won the Super Bowl. Following year, they could have won the Super Bowl then, but some things happened. You had Antonio Brown, leaving the field against the Jets. Chris Godwin, I think, tore his ACL. So if all those guys were healthy, I mean, who knows? Do they lose to the Rams? I don't know. But, Brady still had good years left. And again, it all goes back to Belichick thinking Brady was done. And listen, Brady, even last year, his final year, he wasn't great, but, the offensive line was injured. There was no Gronk. If the offensive line was better and you did have Gronk, then maybe that season goes differently. But because again, he's at a point where he needs a lot of help. He can't do it all by himself because he's in his 40s. But I mean, listen, and the other thing too is Belichick has been trying to get rid of Brady for years. I mean, you go back to 2014. They win that Super Bowl against Seattle. They win the Super Bowl against the Falcons. But Belichick wanted Garoppolo to be the quarterback. And he was trying to push Brady out then. So I think that just all kind of built up to, all right, well, I'm going to go somewhere else and, win a Super Bowl elsewhere. And that's exactly what ended up happening. But, yeah, it's just, again, it's amazing how, both, like Belichick and Brady, they went two different ways. I mean, the Patriots trended down and Brady just trended up. It was unbelievable. I mean, all 3 years Brady was with the Bucs. They made the playoffs. The final year wasn't great, but they still made it. And Belichick, I mean, the Patriots made the playoffs in 2021, but after that, it's just what happened. But yeah, I think what I was going to say before is I think Brady still had some football left. Like, you could tell with some guys, they just, don't have it anymore. Like, Peyton Manning, his final year with Denver, I mean, you knew he was done. 9 touchdowns to 15 interceptions, and it was great that he was able to go out on a high note and win a Super Bowl. I mean, you kind of wish, I wish he did win it when, well, listen, that Broncos defense was historic, but I was hoping they would have won it also in 2013 when they were setting records and he threw 55 touchdowns. But that's just how it went, you know. And Peyton Manning was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time, and it's crazy how his final year in the NFL starting, and he wins a Super Bowl on probably his worst season as a starting quarterback, maybe outside I guess of his rookie season. But I mean, listen, I only remember the 2015 season. I wasn't alive for his rookie season. But yeah, it just I thought Brady still had some years left. But again, it's got to be in the right situation. Like the 49ers, they wanted him. Brady went to the 49ers. They probably end up winning the Super Bowl. Honestly. Because again, it's crazy to say that just because Brady at his age, but I mean that would be a great situation to end up in with the playmakers, the defense. I mean, and that's not a knock on Brock Purdy. It's just Tom Brady's been there and done that. And in the right situation, he probably would have had a good year. But that just ended up not happening. And listen, the 49ers, they had a great season. They got to the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy played well this year. But, you know, listen, I talked about this, you know, when comparing Brady and Mahomes. But listen, that's when the Brady is 2-0 against Mahomes in the playoffs comes into play. Just saying. But again, that was a big what if. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Belichick and Brady won a lot together. And yeah, towards the end it got sour, but they had that doesn't diminish the success that they had together. They had two separate dynasties, all in one. Yeah, they went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl, but they had an incredible run together. And yeah, at some point it was going to end, good or bad. And I think they do both appreciate the time that they had together, you know, but, you know, they butted heads, it seems. And, you know, that's going to happen. But you know what? They made it work for 20 years. They made it work. They won a lot together. And, you know, for them, you know, like, they helped each other build their legacy. Their legacies. Even though a lot of people now tilt towards it was more about Brady than it was Belichick. Which I kind of lean that way too. But at the same time, it's like the Patriots, they brought in Brady. You know, Brady was a nobody. It's not like Brady came in and he was this, you know, star right away. You know, he was drafted in the 6th round. But, you know, he somehow found his way onto the field, and the rest was history. After Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, and from that point on, yeah, we know the rest of the story. Went on to have you know, the greatest career. 7 Super Bowls, which who knows if that's ever going to be surpassed. I mean, you look at Mahomes, and, you know, he's working his way there. Already talking about three-peating next year. You know, I think Mahomes will at least win a couple of more. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a guarantee he will pass 7 Super Bowls. I don't know. Because Brady's the only quarterback that's been able to do that. 7 Super Bowls. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it is just kind of interesting, though, that the relationship with Brady and Belichick just got to the point where it was like, even if you offer me a contract, I'm not coming back. Because that's how bad it got. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was fun, him going to Tampa, even though at the expense of watching him, you know, take down Drew Brees, who you wanted to see win another Super Bowl, being an Aaron Rodgers fan, watching him take down Rodgers in the championship game, and then that team just dismantling the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You know, it was fun while it lasted. I don't know. It's kind of weird for me to say that, but I don't know. I guess it all goes back to the fact that Brady and many other quarterbacks I grew up watching, and a lot of them are gone. It's really just all that's left really is Stafford, Rodgers, and I guess you want to throw Russell Wilson in there. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to transition into the next segment here. Speaking of Russell Wilson, so when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about the Broncos likely releasing Russell Wilson. But before I do that, again, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about Russell Wilson the Broncos likely releasing Russell Wilson after, season is over. Likely to release Russell Wilson in, I guess, the coming weeks, coming months, whatever you want to call it. So we'll talk about that when we come back from our second break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Broncos likely releasing Russell Wilson, like I said before the break, in the coming weeks, coming months. Sean Payton was talking to the media, and, saying, we still got Russ on the team. Evaluating the quarterbacks, I guess, for the draft. It's actually, where did the Broncos pick? Because they finished 8-9 on the season, and we'll see if they have to, trade up. Maybe that's a possibility, if they want to do that. This is a big decision. So yeah, they have the 12th pick. So yeah, maybe they do want to trade up, possibly. But yeah, so if they do release Russell Wilson, the move would result in an NFL record $85 million in dead money for the Broncos. Yeah, so that wouldn't be good. Now, it's reported that almost no one in the league expects the Broncos to retain Wilson. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. I know Sean Payton has said, we still got him. No, he's going to be gone. So Russell Wilson is guaranteed $39 million in 2024, regardless of the Broncos' decision, with his $37 million salary for 2025 guaranteeing on March 18th. Wilson would likely prefer to be cut as soon as possible to explore other options in the open market. Also talks about Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and Ryan Tannehill are among the veterans set for free agency in the spring. If all things are equal, Wilson would rank behind Cousins as one of the best options available. Wilson's tenure with the Broncos, has been disappointing with struggles in 2022 and a mediocre performance in 2023. Sean Payton was frustrated with Wilson's inability to move the ball consistently, as he did not have a 300-yard passing game after Week 3. Despite his decline from his prime years with the Seattle Seahawks, Wilson is still considered a viable NFL starter who may not command an exorbitant salary. There were a couple TikToks I saw of his old games with Seattle. Just a different player. It's just like the Patriots game from the COVID season. I know the regular season game against the Niners. Niners still won the game, but just a couple. But yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, I don't get it. Like how he went from that to. I mean, again, I think it also comes down to coaching. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett just was not the right man for the job the first season. But yeah, I mean, listen, I thought Russell Wilson stepping into that situation, I thought, that was going to elevate Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And Sutton did have a good season. Jeudy, I don't know what happened to him, but 2023 was not a good year for him. But yeah, I don't even think he had a touchdown, Jerry Jeudy, this year. I could be wrong, but yeah, it just again, 2023 was a little bit better for Russ, but still, it's just games like the Texans and the Lions, it's just they could not keep up with those offenses. Especially the Lions game, they got blown out. And it's weird because they also played close games against the Chiefs, and they even beat the Chiefs. But again, that's a divisional game, so. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's really strange how Russell Wilson's career kind of derailed, because he was really on that trajectory to be a Hall of Famer. And can he still get there? I mean, it depends. If he ends up in the right situation and he turns back the clock to the Russ that we saw in all those years in Seattle, then yeah. But right now, it doesn't look good. And I saw Tim Hasselbeck said that it wouldn't surprise him if Russell Wilson's just out of the league, out of football. Like, really? He's really that bad that he's not going to get another chance? Again, I think it's the right situation. I mean, we talked about Justin Fields being traded and the places he can end up. I mean, I know I joked about it, but Seattle is out there. Oh, wow, my good friend Nick Urillo is in the chat. I haven't heard from him in a while. He also said last night in our sports chat it's been years since he's seen me, which is kind of true. So Nick Urillo says, Russ could definitely help the Steelers or the Falcons. Imagine those teams last year with Russ instead of Pickett, Rudolph, Mitch, or Ritter / Heineke. I mean, I agree with that. But again, like, me personally, I think the Falcons situation would be better. They're both good. But again, this goes back to what I said yesterday, is you got Mike Tomlin. Out of the teams when I was talking about Justin Fields, Mike Tomlin is the head coach. And then with the other situations, Antonio Pierce, it's his first full season, and then you got a bunch of coaching changes with the other teams, like Seattle, like the Falcons. So, yeah, in terms of stability, the Steelers would be probably the best spot. But the Falcons, I like their playmakers probably a little bit better. But they're probably neck and neck. But again, I mean, we'll see how the Falcons utilize the weapons this time, because, well, now Arthur Smith, speaking of those two teams, Arthur Smith has gone from the Falcons to the Steelers now to be their offensive coordinator. So, yeah, I think Russ still has football left in him. I think what Tim Hasselbeck said, I think, is a little bit extreme. I feel like he could still win games. It's just, again, it's got to be the right situation. And I think those two situations, the Steelers and the Falcons, I think they would be, good situations to step into. But then it's up to Russ to go out there and play well, But again, it's all speculation. Just know, but at the end of the day, I mean, his time in Denver is done. And we'll see what the Broncos end up doing. If they take a quarterback, if they want to try to get one of the other quarterbacks that are out there. I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins is coming off an Achilles injury, so obviously you look at him before the injury, you're like, wow, he was having a great season, and then he gets hurt. He's going to be coming back up from that, so you don't know how he's going to be. Tannehill is, kind of been trending down these last couple of years. He first got to Tennessee, it was very good. But, kind of trended down after that. Last year, the Titans, the wheels kind of fell off. Because in 2021, they were the number 1 seed. I mean, people forget that. Titans were the number 1 seed. But actually, I could see Tannehill going to the Steelers just because, again, Arthur Smith is there. Because, again, the Steelers want to bring in competition for Kenny Pickett. So maybe they bring in Tannehill. But, yeah, I mean, like Nick was saying, Russ would definitely be an upgrade over a lot of the quarterbacks that he talked about. I mean, especially, Mitchell Trubisky and Desmond Ridder. I mean, I think the Steelers would have signed up for that. At least for Mason Rudolph, he got the Steelers to the playoffs, winning those last couple of games. But, yeah, I mean, Russ is an upgrade over all of those quarterbacks there, including Kenny Pickett as well. But it's weird because the Steelers were winning games with Kenny Pickett. Then he gets hurt, and then the season kind of fell apart because they put in Trubisky, and he wasn't good. And then it looked like the Steelers were not going to make the playoffs. And then they put in Mason Rudolph, and they won 3 straight, made the playoffs. And listen, they battled in that game against the Bills, but they weren't going to win that game. But, yeah, and then the Falcons, what's the weakness of their team? It's the quarterback position. So, that could be a fit for Russ possibly, maybe Kirk Cousins. I mean, again, we'll just have to see. Maybe Kirk Cousins goes back to Minnesota. I don't really know because, again, it all comes down to the injury. Because, if Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt this year and he, continues to have the great season he was having, he's probably a lock to go back to the Vikings. But I know Justin Jefferson has expressed his desire for Kirk to come back. So we'll see. But, Russell Wilson could be added to that list of quarterbacks that is on the market. And, again, I think what Hasselbeck said was extreme. Like, I think he's going to be sticking around. He's going to end up on another team. But, again, it might be his last chance. Because if he gets another shot and doesn't play well, then, yeah, maybe he's done. I think it would be insane if he went back to Seattle. But, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. Well, probably isn't going to happen. But it would just be crazy. He comes back to Seattle, and then he just becomes the Russ of old. But I don't know. I don't know. Again, that was the last time he was with Seattle was 2021, and he got injured that year, and it's been a while, and it's been a rough couple seasons for him, and he's gonna be on the move again, but it's just it really is crazy just how things changed for him. Because, again, he goes to the Broncos, and you're thinking, wow, the Broncos are finally going to be back, and they're going to be a contender. They got a good defense. They got weapons, and nothing. They were not a good team. And listen, it looked like they could sneak in maybe this year because they started playing really well. They went on that winning streak, but, yeah, it just it didn't happen. They then they lose to the Lions. Well, who else did they lose to? They lost to the Texans. They got blown out by the Lions. Trying to think of who else they lost to. But, yeah, it just didn't work out. They kind of ran out of gas. But now we'll see what the Broncos end up doing. But listen, you got Harbaugh now in the division who's going to try to fix the Chargers. You got Antonio Pierce who, when he took over, the Raiders started playing better. I mean, they ended up finishing 8-9. Looked like they would have kept Josh McDaniels the full season. They probably end up finishing with the worse record than that. So, the competition in the division, well, the Chiefs are in their own class. With the other two teams, you're going to be fighting for second place. And I don't know. Right now I kind of rank the I don't know if I want to say rank the Broncos last because the Chargers, they're coming off of a bad season, and again, with injuries. But I don't know. I'm curious to see, how that division is going to be next year. I mean, of course, you put the Chiefs at the top, and then the other 3 teams, we'll see what happens. Because I know the Chargers with their cap situation, I've talked about that. the Raiders and the Broncos, they both need quarterbacks. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this whole thing with Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Should the Broncos keep him for some reason? I mean, because if they get rid of him, I mean, I just told you what, it'd be a record of dead cap money. So, we'll see. But, yeah, so when we come back now from our final break of the show, we're going to talk about a couple articles I saw on CBS, teams that will rise and fall in 2024. So I'll talk about the teams that they have listed. I'll give you my opinion on that, and that will be it for the show for today. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about the teams that will rise and fall in 2024 in the NFL. So, let's get right into that. So, CBS released a couple of articles. They had 5 teams that they believed would rise in 2024, and then 5 teams that would fall in 2024. So, let's talk about the teams that will rise. So they have the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals, I mean, we know why they're going to rise is because of the fact that Joe Burrow is going to be healthy next year. You hope. Because we know what happens when the Bengals are healthy. This team goes to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years. And that's a team that I've talked about a lot this week when I did the segment on who can dethrone the Chiefs. That's the team that I think has the best shot because they've done it before. Now, they have lost to them too, but again, it took a Harrison Butker field goal at the end for them to win. And, that was the first time Mahomes has ever beaten Joe Burrow. So, they're going to be better. They're going to franchise tag. It seems they're going to franchise tag T. Higgins, so they're going to keep him. I also saw something, I guess there's rumors out there that they could release Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon is getting older. You saw what Chase Brown could do at times this past season, the rookie running back. So, and Mixon's getting older for a running back, so maybe they could possibly move on from him. But I saw that. But, yeah, listen, if you get a healthy Bengals squad next season, they're going to be really good. And then the other 4 teams, I mean, the Rams, a lot of people really didn't expect them to be good this year. And, really, they caught my attention, at least the first game of the year in Seattle, they caught my attention. And then, then they started losing games, and I was like, okay, I guess they're not really going to be that good. But then all of a sudden, Kyron Williams comes back from IR, and they just looked like, and Cooper Kupp is healthy. Puka Nacua, the season he had, they just looked like a different team in the second half. Well, but especially with Kyron Williams coming back. They just looked like a different team. Now, you saw in the playoff game against the Lions, they got to retool that defense. That defense is not the Super Bowl defense. There's no Von Miller. There was no Jalen Ramsey. I don't think there was Leonard Floyd either. It's just, at least that's just to name a few. those are big pieces. You still got Aaron Donald, of course, but it needs a little bit of help. And if the Rams could retool that defense, listen, they're going to be a good team next year. And listen, I probably still put the 49ers ahead of them as the best team in their division, but you put the Rams right there because the Cardinals, they're still trying to rebuild. The Seahawks, I mean, we'll see what happens with their quarterback situation, and obviously now they have a new head coach. Sean McVay is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. And you know what? They definitely overachieved. And now, free agency and the draft, if they can address some needs, especially, like I said, on the defensive side of the ball, this team definitely is going to be even better next year. Then you got some young teams with some young quarterbacks. Of course, C.J. Stroud with the Texans. I mean, a great year for him. And, of course, head coach DeMeco Ryans. Again, they got some free agents on the defensive side of the ball, so some reloading there. Also, listen, you got some running backs out there on the market. Maybe they could be a team that tries to make a push for Saquon Barkley, because I know that was one of the teams that that could be a fit for him if he does leave the Giants. Because, I mean, listen, Devin Singletary did a nice job, but, you need another running back in that spot. So we'll see what they end up doing there. The Colts, listen, with Shane Steichen, even with Anthony Richardson going down, I mean, they had a chance to make the playoffs, and they lost that heartbreaker against the Texans final week of the regular season to be eliminated. Gardner Minshew did a great job, taking over as the backup taking over as a starting quarterback, originally being the backup. But yeah, I mean, listen, next year with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor with his new contract, again, this team is going to be competitive. And we saw how the Jags just fell off. So really, I mean, AFC South is up for grabs next year. I mean, the Texans, listen, they won the division. But there's no guarantee that they're going to win it next year. I mean, you figure the Jags are going to be back and they're going to try to, take the division back from them. Even though, I mean, it looked like the Jags were going to get the division. It looked like it was going to be locked up, but they just kind of fell apart. And you figure the Colts gave them problems the first week of the regular season. The Jags, that was a close game. They did blow them out in Jacksonville, but now next year's a new year, so. You have it's going to be between those three teams. I think Tennessee, listen, they're kind of rebuilding. They have their young quarterback with Will Levis, but I feel like they're in a different spot right now. So they're probably outside of that conversation for the moment. And then you also have the Packers. Listen, it was a roller coaster of a season for the Packers. I mean, they started off good, then they had that rough stretch, then they were trending up again, and then, they lost to the Giants, and the Buccaneers, and then all of a sudden, they won their last couple games, and they made the playoffs, won a playoff game, and they almost beat the 49ers too. And Jordan Love played really well, the youngest roster in the NFL. And listen, they're going to be good next year. They should be good next year. New defensive coordinator now, letting go of Joe Barry, which I know Packers fans are really happy about that. There's no reason why this team, can't be good next year. I mean, I think they're going to be good. But their division is going to be tough. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Vikings and Kirk Cousins if he's coming back. The Lions are not going away, and the Bears. Listen, I mean, even when the Bears were playing better, the Packers still beat them. But, I think the Packers can contend for the division next year. I think they are a playoff team. I mean, they proved that this year. Jordan Love down the stretch was playing his best football, the best football of his career. Especially this being the first year he finally was starting games consistently and, found that consistency towards the end of the year. And now you can carry that into the next season. This team should be good. And they had some big wins. They beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. They beat the Chiefs in Lambeau. And again, they went on the road against Dallas, the game that many people didn't think they were going to win. And they not only did they win, they dominated from start to finish. And then, they almost beat the 49ers. So, I mean, with Jordan Love now as the starting quarterback, this team's going to be a problem. The conference as a whole in the NFC is going to be better next year. So, yeah, those are the teams that they had listed that are going to rise. Let me know if there's any teams that you think that I didn't mention here that you think are going to rise. But, yeah, definitely the Bengals, just because, like Joe Burrow's coming back. And the fact that they still almost made the playoffs with Jake Browning, that's a credit to them and the kind of team they are. So Nick has a very early Super Bowl prediction. He is predicting Chiefs-Packers next year. Now, if you look at the Super Bowl logo, that is the reason why. No, I'm just kidding. That's not. Well, listen, I wanted that matchup for a couple years now because I wanted to see Rodgers and Mahomes finally play each other, and we, spent money to go see them play each other, and then Rodgers gets hurt. So then we had to watch Zach Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes, which was not fun. Well, no, it was fun, but it just, again, really wanted to see it to be. I really wanted it to be Rodgers versus Mahomes. So maybe that'll be the AFC Championship game next year. No. I like the prediction though. But again, we got a long way to go. So and we just had this Super Bowl just end. But I'd be fine with it. I'd be fine with the matchup. I know a lot of people wouldn't be just because, again, the Chiefs would be back there again, but we'll see. So now let's get into the teams that could fall. So they have the Browns listed. I don't know if I agree with that. Now, I understand what their reasoning was, talking about Deshaun Watson and, him coming back from injury, Nick Chubb coming back from injury. I understand that, but I don't know. I feel like they'll still be good. They're still going to be good. Are they going to be good enough to win the division? I don't think so because you still got the Ravens and, again, a healthy Bengals squad. But, again, this is a team that they say is going to fall. Well, how badly are they going to fall? I don't know. I think the Browns will still be good. Still got a good defense. But, again, I don't get why they would put the Browns. Well, I do get it, but I don't get it. Because they have a lot of talent, but, yeah, the quarterback position and the running back position is important. But, Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt did a nice job running the football at the end of the year. Or really the whole year while Chubb was out. But, yeah, it really does come down to the quarterback position. If Deshaun Watson's if he doesn't turn back the clock into how he was with the Texans, yeah, it's just not really going to work. So they also have the Saints. So they got a cap situation. Listen, they had a good finish to the season. It's just, again, it was too little too late for them. They ended up finishing 9-8. Alvin Kamara's getting older. Michael Thomas, keeps getting hurt. The defense is getting older too. Some of the guys, I still don't agree with them keeping Dennis Allen. I think they should have went in a different direction, but they didn't want to do that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. So then you also got the Broncos as a team they listed as trending down. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. Again, that's another team that has to deal with a quarterback situation because, you could maybe target one of the ones in free agency, trade for one, draft one. There's a lot of possibilities. It's just not going to be Russell Wilson. But, yeah, and then you're also in a tough division, because you figure the Raiders, they'll be better next year. The Chargers are definitely going to be better next year. And then you still got the Chiefs. So, but then you also have the Vikings. And I think this really just all depends on, if Kirk Cousins does come back and he's healthy. Because if he's healthy, this team is going to be a problem. But, if they end up not going with him and they go in a different direction. And again, you still got to figure out what the contract situation is with Justin Jefferson. If he wants to get paid and, immediately, so you also have to deal with that. And again, same thing with the Broncos. division's going to be better next year. The Bears are going to be better. Depending on the quarterback situation, another quarterback situation with the team. The Packers are going to be better. You still got the Lions. So we'll see what happens there. So now they also have another team, and Nick, if you're still here, you're not going to like who CBS put. They put the New York Giants as a team that could be falling in 2024. Now, this is a team that finished 6-11. You got Saquon Barkley, who might not be on the team next year. You got question marks at quarterback, the offensive line, and then you had all this stuff going on with Brian Dable and Wink Martindale. That whole fiasco at the end. Yeah. Now, I liked how the Giants played down the stretch. They were competitive. They stomped the Eagles, which was nice to see, but, that was this year. Now we're going into a new season, and we still got a lot of they still have a lot of question marks. And I don't know how they're going to be able to fix all of that in one offseason. You have all that, and you still don't have a number one wide receiver. They traded for Darren Waller, and that didn't really work out, which I think a lot of us kind of figured that was going to happen. But, yeah, and the division. They're still not better than Philly, not better than Dallas. Washington is the only team that they still own, and I think they'll continue to do that. So Nick said, hard to fall further. Yeah, you're right. But again, that's just what this is an article that I saw. This is not my opinion. I feel like, that they're going to figure something out. Because I still have faith in Joe Shane, but again, it's just hard because it's just, there's so many problems that this team has, and I don't know if they're going to be able to fix all of that in one offseason. And then, if they can't do that this year, who knows what's going to happen? Then we're going to be going into year 4, and it's like they took a step forward, and then they took a massive step back. So what's going to happen now in 2024? I don't know. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the show for today. Nick, appreciate you sticking around and commenting. Appreciate that. So yeah, we'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope you guys enjoy the weekend, and until then, I am Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that